Hey guys, to help run the forums, host the website, and travel, we've introduced a universal service fee for in-depth coverage, including this video. The goal is to be transparent and unbiased. This is not an endorsement. It's a privilege to serve you. Let's get into it. Hey, what's going on, guys? So I am here checking out the Rocky Mountain Altitude. It is a carbon fiber electric mountain bike with some really cool features and a newer motor system, one that I haven't yet tried before until now. So I'd love to tell you all about it. But I'm here with Gary from Crazy Lenny's e-bike shop. That's where I'm borrowing the bike from on actually this private section of land specifically for mountain bike testing. So Gary, tell me about the bike. So what kind of person really wants this bike?
It's funny you ask. The guy who I have this bike for, he probably got his first bike maybe 2-3 years ago. He has 4 bikes now. He calls me up, comes to the store, sees what's new, and he's always looking for the next, what's new kind of thing. This is sort of our newest, greatest thing. The Rocky Mountain, it's going to be the most like your normal mountain bike as far as like the geometry. You can put this against a regular Rocky Mountain Altitude. The suspension points are all the same on this. So if you're a normal mountain biker and you're making the jump, this is what you'd get. I went for a 15-mile ride on one of these this morning, and I came back and did a couple loops. You don't think anything about going off 15 miles. It sounds like maybe that's a lot, but it doesn't take a lot of time, because all those uphills, you're going 10 miles an hour now, and it might take anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour, and you can do that full ride. It's super fun. All the reasons why you don't ride your normal bike, the hill at the end of the driveway, the wind, there's a super good headwind today. I'm tired from yesterday. None of those apply to these. They just make it fun all the time.
Okay, so as promised, this is the Rocky Mountain Altitude. It is a carbon fiber electric mountain bike, dual suspension, with lots of great components on it. So if you're looking for a high-end electric mountain bike, this is the one for you, because it's got pretty much everything. Let's go ahead and jump into the mechanical section first. So one thing that you'll kind of appreciate if you ever go down a hill, which if you go up, you'll have to come down. These are 203 millimeter rotors from Shimano. These are Shimano Saint component level of brakes. They have this pretty big rotor here, and they also have a cast center. So this center piece that you see here that's all dark black, so this reduces flexing. It's nice and strong, whereas the rotor itself is made of kind of a more pliable material that kind of soaks up all of the heat dissipation, or all of the heat that comes from squeezing on the brakes. And that comes through this little piston setup right here. You got 4 pistons, 2 on each side, that take that pad and squeeze onto the rotor right there. So these are pretty good 14 gauge spokes that you have coming into the center of the bike, center of the fork here. So this bike does have a axle right here that you have to release with a tool. It doesn't have a quick release on it, but that's to kind of keep the strength high. This is the Fox 36 factory, so this is kind of the creme de la creme for front shocks. And of course it has a genuine Kashima coat. I presume that means the metal coating that's around it. But going along with this front fork, this has a ton of travel. I want to say this is close to 200 millimeters of travel on the front fork, which is quite a bit. It can compress a fair amount there. I mean, that's got to be 7 inches if you want to measure it that way. And on the front, you have the 27.5 by 2.5 width tires. So that means it's 27.5 in diameter, and the width is 2.5 inches wide. So this is kind of inching into the plus size of width. It's not a fat tire bike, not by a long shot, but it's wider than your typical mountain bike from years past, where they were about a 2-inch wide. This one's 2.5, so it's a little bit more. And honestly, I really like this size. This is a good size of tire that I personally enjoy riding on the trails. Fat tire bikes are good. They grow on me for particular purposes, but when I'm riding on a trail, especially one like this, definitely appreciate this size of tire. It's one of my favorites. You do have a preload adjustment right here. for the shock. So by twisting that, you can kind of fine tune the shock if you want it to be a little more aggressive, if you want it to be a little more lightweight. That's where you would do that there. Talking a little bit about the brakes, these are hydraulic disc brakes, and this is the reservoir. You have like a 2-finger grip right there, which has a lot of bite. I mean, these brakes stop on a dime. You have an amazing amount of control with these brakes. If you're in some sticky situations like mountain bike riding, then you'll love these brakes. These are some Shimano Deore XT shifters. So these are trigger shifters that you have on the back of the bike. You don't have a set for the front of the derailleur, just for the back of the bike right there. So by pressing these in, that'll change your gears just like a regular bike. No surprises there. These are pretty wide handlebars, and these are an aluminum race face turbine 2 handlebars. They're pretty wide, so this gives you a little bit better control, kind of triangulates your riding angle to help you get in on those nice clean lines. So this, of course, the carbon fiber frame has a really nice paint job to it. You know, it's pretty striking. And one thing about the bike that a lot of people really enjoy is that it doesn't look electric at first glance until you get to that bottom bracket there. Looking at the down tube where you see the word Rocky Mountain, inside of that is where the battery is located. Like a lot of electric bikes, particularly a lot of electric mountain bikes have the battery there like this. However, this one is really thin. They have done a really good job of making the battery somewhat wide. So if you kind of come over to this angle, you see that this tube is wider than a typical bike in some cases, but it keeps a pretty low profile, and the battery is built inside of there, which, by the way, the battery does not come out easy. So there's no release, there's no key, there's not even a screw to get the battery out. What you've got to do is take this plate off, and then you've got to take the motor assembly off of the bike as well, and then the battery will slide out from here. I haven't done it quite yet. I'd like to get back to the shop and give it a try if I got time for it. But that's something to consider. So if you're looking for a bike to use in a summer environment and have the bike kind of hibernate during the winter, you probably want to take it inside the house with you, because if the battery sits around in the cold too much, and especially if you charge it in the cold, then that is going to affect the longevity of the battery cells. So to keep things safe, you probably want to take the entire bike with you on account of the battery indoors during the winter for hibernation purposes. But this carbon fiber frame, we'll kind of stick to that. The carbon fiber frame is really light. I got a chance to ride this alongside of its aluminum frame counterpart, which is the Rocky Mountain Instinct. This one is really lightweight. It allows you to kind of toss the bike around and maneuver it really quickly, really easily. The bike feels more like a pair of shoes as opposed to a pair of boots, if you want to put it that way. And continuing on with some of the mechanical specs, we're talking about the derailleur. So these are the indexers up here that come back into this set of gears down in here. So coming back to the rear of the bike, again, this is the Shimano XT Deore derailleur system back here. And on the gear set, you have 11 speeds in total, going down from all the way to 11 cogs on the bottom up to 46 on the top. So this is a pretty tall, pretty big gear right here that you can use to climb some pretty steep hills. We did it already on the little track here, and that's quite a bit. There is a little bit more of a range that you might find on other bikes, but this realistically is a lot, especially compared with the electric motor that sits in here. You can climb some pretty serious hills because you have a really aggressive gear ratio to get up, as well as some torque coming from the motor, a fair amount of torque too. I was told that the motor peaks at 127 Newton meters of torque coming from the motor. So whatever you got in here combined with the gear ratio, that's going to put out quite a bit. Okay, so you got some race face turbine cranks right here. Interestingly enough, the bike does not come with pedals. I think that's something I forgot to mention about the Rocky Mountain Instinct, is that they don't come with pedals. We just put some on at the shop over at Lenny's, and these work really well because I got the pins on them and everything. But yeah, if you've got an electric mountain bike or a mountain bike of any kind, you probably want to get some pedals to put on there if you don't already have a set ready at home. Let's talk a little bit about the suspension system. We talked about the front being pretty top of the line. As you can imagine, the rear is top of the line as well. You have a really fat reservoir up in here that can take a lot of compression, as well as kind of an extra reservoir here, I believe is for cooling. So this is the Float X2 system from the Evol line for extra volume, and it has a lot of volume in it. This thing can compress quite a bit. if you were to make a cartoon of it, the whole bike would collapse and then spring back together. And combined with the linkage system, which has this little L link here going down to the seat stay, you have kind of like a little point right in there where it kind of pivots a little bit, and then as a result it compresses quite a bit onto that damper right there. The result of that is to kind of isolate the rider from the compression of the suspension. So that way when the rider's pedaling, you may have felt this if you've been riding a cheaper bike, when you pedal, the entire bicycle kind of jumps up and down with you. That is a result of a suspension system that is either poorly designed or poorly tuned. And this is designed to eliminate that. So this is going to give you a really nice riding profile and riding feeling as you're going, while still giving you a fair amount of compression to allow the tires to keep grip on the trail and provide a little bit of extra comfort. And speaking of comfort, let's jump up to the seat post here. So this has a suspension seat post system. Let's go ahead and collapse that real quick, show you what it looks like. Okay, so this has a suspension seat post system, meaning that the seat post itself has a little spring inside of here that will rise as you press this little lever right here. So pressing that lever will allow the seat post to rise up all on its own. You don't have to like twist anything or use a tool or anything. All you got to do is just press that little thing and then the seat post will come up. Why you would use that, let's go ahead and show you what it looks like. I'll press that in and whoosh, up it goes. As you're going down the hill, you would want the seat to be lower. That way you're going to be standing up on the pedals and you're going to be maneuvering the bike using your own body weight. But when you're going up a hill, or especially on a more flat terrain, something more smooth, kind of like this clearing that we have on this section of the trail, you would want the seat a little bit higher to come meet you. That way you can get a full leg extension as you pedal and maintain your speed if you're coming up to another hill going up, or if you want to maneuver yourself for another descent. So the purpose of this is to go up and down on a whim. It goes down by applying your body weight to it and then just pressing on the lever, and then it will sink down with your body. So the purpose of going up and down is when you're changing terrain. I don't know about you, but all the mountain bike riding that I've ever done has some various terrain. It goes up a little, down a little, and having the ability to change the seat post on the fly like that is an amazing feature. It really makes a world of a difference when you're riding on varied terrain. So let's go ahead and jump into the electric system real quick. Honestly, one of my favorite parts. Let's go ahead and press that lever and lower the seat post a bit. So we talked a little bit about the battery casing. The battery inside of here is a 48 volt 14 amp hour lithium ion battery that's trapped inside of the frame right in here. And you got some little bosses right here for a bottle cage, which I very much appreciate. In here is the motor. So you can see the chain kind of comes along here, and the chain actually doesn't make contact with the chain ring on the top end. It actually comes in past this little cog here, up and around a little cog for the motor system, and then down into the rest of the mechanical drivetrain. Now, the purpose of that is to allow the motor to get some direct contact with the chain, and also allow you to pedal the bike with a regular bottom bracket system that's all in here. So this has a conventional bottom bracket. It's not being consumed by the motor. So the motor inside of here is called the Dyname 3.0 from a company called Propulsion Power Cycles out of Quebec, Canada. It's a new motor system, at least it's new to me, that I'm really excited to try out. It relies heavily on a torque sensor that is very sensitive and works very well. I like the torque sensor that's inside of this motor. Let's go ahead and show you the other side. I mean, it's just a plate, but perhaps I can put an overlay of what the motor looks like without the plate in there. But the motor system relies a lot on the torque sensing, like a good mountain bike should. It's pretty sensitive, and it doesn't really do so much for the cadence sensor. So when you're riding at a higher speed, or when you're riding at a higher cadence, say on the road, or even if you're going downhill, the system won't really power on that much. It's kind of getting the sense that you don't need it, because if you're pedaling really fast, you're probably going down a hill, and that's probably not the time that you want to engage the motor. But this system does kind of lean so much on the torque sensor that when you get to the road, say, it's not going to power all that much. So this is not, at least the way that it's tuned specifically on this bike, it's made for a mountain bike. It is not made for the road. And obviously this is a mountain bike, that's where we are and everything like that. So if you're looking for a system that's a little more all around, then I wouldn't want to take it off of this bike, certainly. I don't know if the motor system can do that. I don't know if they have more of a street model, because I think this is the only one available in the States is on this bike at the moment. I'd like to explore it more in the future, but we haven't gotten to that point. So that's the motor system and the battery. Let's talk a little bit about the display, and in fact that there really isn't much of a display to talk about. You can see the handlebars are pretty clean. There's not a whole lot going on in this cockpit area until you get to this little guy right here. So this is how you control the electric system. It's super basic. So you press on that center button to turn the system on, and let's see if we can show you a little bit of the color. So right now it just shows you green to kind of show you it's in a mode. When you press the down button, that'll put it into white and it will flash, showing you that there's no pedal assist. And then it goes to green again, just kind of a default to show you that. When you press the plus button, that goes into green pedal assist mode, and it flashes a couple times. You press up again, now you're in orange pedal assist mode, flashes a couple times. And then when you press up the final time, it goes into red pedal assist mode. So that's kind of your 1, 2, and 3, and that is it. It doesn't tell you the battery level, it doesn't tell you an odometer, a trip set, or calories, or the position of the sun, or anything like that, or a treasure map. It just tells you that. If you want more information, that is available through a telephone app that they have called Electric Motion. It's going to be tough to find on a Google search, but Electric Motion is the name of the app that pairs with this bike, and that will tell you some more ride information if you wanted to track some of that while you're on a ride. But the purpose of having such a clean handlebar in the first place is to help the rider kind of keep their focus on the ride, and it does that very well. I've ridden lots of electric mountain bikes, and I've seen plenty of them that have this big display up in here that kind of clogs everything up, and it's kind of, you know, demanding your attention a little bit, and this really just keeps you focused on the ride, which is kind of what you want in a lot of electric mountain bikes, is to just go out and ride. You know, the complexity of the electric bike, the complexity of the mechanical system and everything, it all serves a purpose to just get you flying on that trail. That's what it's all for. That's what it's all about, you know, to use a very common term. So yeah, that's the electric system, the mechanical system. Let's go ahead and jump on and go for a ride and show you what it looks like. So we are here checking out the Rocky Mountain Altitude on I'm not sure what the actual altitude of this place is, but nonetheless, it's fun. It's a great ride. I mean, the torque sensor kicks in very, very quickly. I think that's really one of the shining things about this bike and about this system, is that it's very well tuned to each other, and this motor kicks up really quick. On a descent like this, start losing your momentum, maybe forget what gear you're riding in, you know, and it's kind of easy to kind of lose your place because you're so focused on the terrain, kind of what it's doing. But that system really kicks in pretty quick. I mean, we're talking like, it's got to be milliseconds, of course, to when it kicks in. It really helps even out the trail, keeps your momentum high. That way, when you're going on a clearing like this one, it's still a good ride. You don't have to stop and change all your gears and everything like that. And then when you come to a descent like this, you know, the system doesn't go anymore, so it's not out of control, it's not unpredictable. You know, it's really good, really, really well made for mountain biking. I mean, this is great. Whew. A little tricky coming into the fall. Oh yeah. All right, now on the turn. Okay, here we go. Jumping back to the road. Oh yeah. All right, fun stuff. Okay, so we are back on the road again, where it's a little more smooth and I can kind of bust out the camera, ride one-handed, and tell you a little bit about the bike in motion. So it's really fun. So on that track back there, I had the chance to take out this bike as well as the other Rocky Mountain, the Rocky Mountain Instinct, which is aluminum. That's the one that I started on today. And in comparison, this bike is really, really lightweight. I mean, it shaves off a good 5 pounds at least. I want to say that this is 47, yeah, 6. So this is 47 pounds, the bike in total, and the other one is closer to 53. I think it's 53 on the dot for the Instinct. And yeah, this bike feels that lightweight as well. due to the carbon fiber frame, and it shaves that weight despite having a really big suspension system. So the suspension on this has a lot more weight to it because it's doing a lot more work, has a lot larger compression and the extra reservoir, but nonetheless it's a lightweight bike, so you can throw it around pretty well. Yeah, I like the wide handlebars are really nice. Good thing to help keep control, and the tires are pretty good too. Honestly, I didn't take it on too heavy of a ride, so the tires, I didn't really get to kind of showcase them, I guess if you want to call it that. The terrain here is a little bit muddy, so I didn't want to press it too much. Got to keep the bike relatively nice. There was one thing that kind of occurred to me, and that is that I don't have the app to show me the battery level or the trip set or anything like that, and so I'm not entirely sure how much battery power I've got. And that didn't really hit me, honestly, until I got on the road here, because I'm pedaling kind of far away, you know, to kind of get the time on the camera, show you a little bit more of the bike in action. And then I thought, I don't know what the battery level is. There's a green light that's on the bike that's not associated with pedal assist, and I don't know if that means that my battery is good or not. I think it's good. You know, green means go. I guess so. So I guess that's one thing that kind of highlights the purpose of this bike. This bike is definitely made for off-road. Okay guys, so we got the Rocky Mountain Altitude cranked all the way up to level red of pedal assist. Let's go ahead and jump on and take it for a ride. Okay guys, so I'm going to sign off on the bicycle this time. Thanks for checking out the Rocky Mountain Altitude with me. It's pretty cool. If you want to check out the full specs on this bike, as well as participate in the forums, ask a question, kind of hang out if you'd like, or if you want to compare this with other bicycles and brands, you can check out ElectricBikeReview.com. Thanks for watching guys. Ride safe.